Hello, beautiful people. Welcome to your astrological forecast for next week. And this one, of course, will be focused on the upcoming solar eclipse in Libra, the new moon solar eclipse in Libra, which we will be experiencing on October 2nd. So we are going to dive into all of this in a moment. I have all the charts ready. Of course, I also have all the aspects that are going to be happening prior and post this eclipse written down. So I will share those with you. But as always, I would like to open this space and invite my higher self, my spirit guides, ancestors, angelic team, and all the beings of light that wish to be present for this recording and share messages with us to support us on our evolutionary path. Thank you for being here, and thank you everyone for tuning in and listening. And let's just dive in because we have a lot to talk about. So before I share the charts, let me just tell you briefly what will be happening prior to the eclipse. So we entered this weekend, the last weekend of September, with moon in the sign of Leo, which of course is all about authenticity and self-actualization. And then tomorrow on Sunday, we'll be ending the week with Sun making a conjunction to South Node and opposition to North Node. And this is a second conjunction between Sun and the South Node, whilst Venus was the ruler. Well, Venus is still the ruler of the South Node. So the previous conjunction between the Sun and the South Node took place on October 18, 2023, which was right after the first solar eclipse in Libra, which we experienced on October 14th last year. And we are going to look at that one too. And then the last conjunction between Sun and North Node happened on 4/4 portal, which was right before the solar eclipse in Aries, which we experienced on April 8th. On the same, right after that, moon will move into a sign of Virgo. So again, we continue in this pattern of ending the weeks and beginning new weeks now with the moon in a mutable sign, which is telling us about all this flexibility and changing of patterns we are experiencing. And right after that, Mercury will make a conjunction to South Node and opposition to North Node. And Mercury's last conjunction to South Node took place on October 19th, because as before, as last year, also the same this year, the Mercury and Sun both made a conjunction to South Node, and then they conjuncting each other. This is also going to be happening for us this year. So Mercury conjuncted South Node on October 19th, and conjunction between Mercury and North Node this year happened on March 18th, which was 1 week before the full moon lunar eclipse in Libra. So that's interesting. So, okay, so this is how we end in this week. And now we entering into this week that's leading up to the eclipse with moon still in the sign of Virgo. And let me just get my screen ready for that too. So moon in the sign of Virgo, and Mars is making a trine. Mars is making a trine to Saturn, retrograde in Pisces. This is taking place on 14 degrees, 25 minutes, which is Cancer Decan. And conjunction between Mars and Saturn took place on April 10th, which was right after the new moon solar eclipse in Aries, which we experienced in April. And on the same day, on Monday the 30th, Mercury is making a conjunction to Sun. So as I mentioned, it's exactly the same pattern we experienced a year ago. Sun, Mercury conjuncting South Node, and then one another. Same is happening here. And the most recent conjunction between Mercury and Sun took place in Leo, which was exactly on the day of the full moon in Aquarius. We might remember on August 19th. Okay, then what else is going on here? On Tuesday, October 1st, so we'll be entering into the new month. Moon will move into the sign of Libra, and this is in preparation for the solar eclipse, new moon solar eclipse in Libra, which will be taking place on October 2nd. And that will be, well, I'm finding different information. You know, somewhere it's written 10 degrees 2 minutes, sometimes 10 degrees 3 minutes. Either way, it's 10 degrees. And then afterwards on Thursday, so this is happening on Wednesday the 2nd. On Thursday, the 3rd, moon is still in the sign of Libra. And then on Friday, the 4th, we'll be experiencing moon move in the sign of Scorpio, and Venus will be making a trine to Saturn. And the conjunction between the two of them last took place on March 21st, which once again was right before the lunar eclipse in Libra, and it took place on 12 degrees 27 minutes of Pisces, which once again is a Cancer Decan. And then we're going to end next week, the upcoming week, with Mars entering his shadow. That will be taking place on Saturday the 5th, which is my sister's birthday. Saturday the 5th, Mars will enter into his shadow. For some people, it will be still Friday the 4th, depending where you are in the world, which time zone. For me here, even on the east coast of the US, it will be already Saturday the 5th, right after midnight. Mars will enter the shadow on 17 degrees, 1 minute of Cancer. And then Sunday, we will end the week with Moon in the sign of Scorpio. Actually, that's questionable. Okay, we will end the week with Mercury making an exact square to Mars on 17 degrees 34 minutes. And then Moon, for some of us, including myself here in the US, Moon will move into sign of Sagittarius. For some folks in Europe especially, it will be taking place on Monday the 7th. And yeah, and then whatever will happen after that, we'll discuss next week. However, there is a lot taking place for us, building us towards this eclipse. We already had Venus moved into the sign of Scorpio. Literally just a few days ago, Mercury moved into the sign of Libra. And this is where Mercury is going to be. And it's going to be a very active participant of this eclipse because, as I just mentioned, only 2 days before the eclipse, Mercury is making a conjunction to Sun. So, okay, let me share the charts so you guys can see what I'm actually talking about over here, because of course all the aspects that I just named are going to be fully active for this upcoming eclipse. So let's have a look. All right, so I hope that this is loading. It has been raining over here, so the internet might not be the stablest, but yes, you should be able to see the chart. I have quite a bunch of them ready. So this is the chart of the eclipse that we are building towards October 2nd, 2024. For me here on the east coast of the US, it's happening at 46, so 2:46 p.m. This is not the new moon. The new moon is happening at 2:49. This is the chart of the eclipse, which is why we can see that the degree of the sun and the moon is, there is a discrepancy of 1 minute. So as with any new moon, as I keep repeating myself every time we have in a lunation, it started with a new moon. So this new moon had begun on October 14th, 2023, which was the new moon in Libra last year, and that was also an eclipse. This was the first eclipse in the sign of Libra, October 14, 2023. We can see the chart looks a little bit different. In this case, Mercury is behind the sun of the moon, so it was ending, the cycle, and also this eclipse a year ago happened in a closing phase conjunction with the South Node, and that is the most important thing to pay attention to. But we can also see that Mars and South Node were already in a new phase conjunction at the time, and actually Mars at the time was being trined by Saturn, which of course then impacted this entire eclipse, even though there is quite a big orb, but because Mars was in conjunction with all of this going on here in the Libra. So Saturn at the time was already retrograde. It was on 0 degrees, which is the analytic degrees. It's all about culminations and new beginnings. 0 point, the point of creation. Mars, as the ruler of the North Node, was in Scorpio, traditionally ruled by Mars, in a new phase to the solar eclipse in Libra last year, and also in a new phase to the South Node. So what this means to us is that throughout this year, since this last eclipse of 2023, we had to face our shadow and break free from the patterns of the past, because as we know, during that time, also throughout the entire 2023, Pluto was squaring the nodes, skip step. The resolution node at this stage was the South Node in Libra, and we can see the Venus is in Virgo, ruled by Mercury, that is conjunct the eclipse, and Venus is in Virgo Decan, which is all about learning and adjusting. We can see Venus is in a new phase with the dark moon Lilith, and also Venus is making a sextile to Mars. So this is a supportive aspect. This is a closing sextile, which of course is the Aquarian flavor, the breaking free from the outdated pattern. And we can see the eclipse was happening in opposition with Chiron. And at the time, Chiron and North Node were still in a closing phase. And we can also see the trine between Pluto and Uranus, which is still active at the moment. So all in all, we can see that at that time, obviously this is before the big conjunctions we had this year, the Jupiter Uranus, Mars Uranus, all the big stuff that was also Chiron North Node that happened throughout 2024. So this at this time had not yet happened. So this was the conception point, saying that, okay, yes, we will have to break free because we have this Mars still within a degree square with the Pluto, because this is once again a closing square, which is a crisis in consciousness, breaking free, needing to release something. And what we're releasing is this all structure of reality, Saturn on 0 degrees, saying we need to start a new 0 point, right? So the midpoint to this was the full moon lunar eclipse in Libra, which took place on March 25th, 2024. So we can see still it's happening in a closing phase with the South Node, because the conjunction between North Node and Sun took place on 4-4 portal, but we can see already North Node and Chiron are in a new phase conjunction. Again, Mercury is a participant. Mercury is in a new phase with Sun, even though the orb is white, but Mercury is making an exact opposition, well, not exact, but it's still within a degree of opposition to the South Node and conjunction to the North Node, new phase conjunction between Mercury and Chiron, Mercury and North Node, and Mercury and the Sun. And also Neptune here is in a closing phase to Sun, being in the sign of Aries, which represents this new direction with regards to who we are becoming, how we're going to be acting in a relationships. But because this is a balance point, this is the midpoint, the full moon, it said that there was all these things that we had to learn. Obviously, this is still yet prior to the Uranus-Jupiter conjunction, which took place a month later. So there was still a lot that we had to learn, that we had to discover. At the time, we can see that Pluto was trining the moon, which is a positive aspect. This is a closing trine with regards to moon and Pluto, which is the harvest, the balancing point. So the springtime was the rebirth, which represented this new energy that came through for us, and it's giving us the opportunity to make these new choices, because of course Jupiter as a storyteller is in the sign of Gemini at this stage. So anyway, guys, so this is all I'm going to say about these charts. Obviously, the main thing here is that Pluto was trining the full moon, which is saying like, yeah, we experience quite intensity, quite a lot of imbalance with regards to what has been going on for us since October 2023. And we know what's been going on since then. And also the spring, the beginnings of spring 2024, the March 25th, we've been experiencing all this building up of intensity and seeing this illumination of this injustice, of these extremes, of this crisis. The humanity is in crisis at the moment, is undergoing this experiencing of the manifestation of the totality of everything that came before, and we want to find the point of neutrality. We want to break free, and at this stage we can see Mars is closing to Saturn in the sign of Pisces. So Mars as the ruler of the North Node, which is this new direction, we know that this is still in a closing phase between the Sun and the North Node. Closing phase, Pisces, closing phase, closing phase. There were a lot of things that had to culminate. But now we move into the current eclipse, which is the one we're going to be experiencing next week, and we can see everything has changed. Now we have a new phase. We can see this massive stellium in the sign of Libra. The eclipse, again, a new moon, which is closing the cycle that began on 14th of October 2023. However, we know that these cycles of the eclipses are reverberating like for the years yet to come, but the energy has changed since the last eclipse in new moon, since the last new moon solar eclipse in Libra and this solar eclipse in Libra. A lot had happened, a lot had changed. We also had all these personal planets making their very first conjunction with the Pluto in the sign of Aquarius for the next 20 years. And then all the rest of it, the North Node Chiron conjunction, the Jupiter Uranus conjunction, the Mars-Uranus conjunction, Mars-North Node conjunction, Mars-Jupiter conjunction, all this already happened. And Mars, of course, is the rule of the North Node, so we're paying close attention, just as it was with the full moon lunar eclipse in Pisces, which we experienced 2 weeks ago. We can see that Mars still is within the degree of squaring the nodes, even though this chart doesn't pick it up, but it's still within the 10 degrees orb. So Mars still is the skip step. Mars still is squaring the nodes and being the ruler of the North Node. And this is right before Mars enters the shadow. As I just mentioned, Mars will enter the shadow on October 5th. So it will be right before. This is right before that. And Mars is in a sign of Cancer. However, this is already a Scorpio decan, which is again about this empowerment or disempowerment with regards to the identity we are attached to, and squaring the nodes and squaring Chiron. And the exact square between Mars and Chiron will be on October 13th, which is before the full moon in Aries, which will not be an eclipse. It will be just a full moon. So with regards to Mars and Chiron, this is the first quarter square, which is a crisis in action. And Mars, we know, is the ruler of Chiron, because Chiron is in the sign of Aries, and Chiron is retrograde. And at this stage, Chiron is on Sagittarius decan, which is connected to Jupiter. Jupiter is in the sign of Gemini. Here, Jupiter is in the sign of Gemini, and Jupiter is making an exact sextile. We can see Jupiter is making an exact sextile to Chiron on this very day. So this is supporting us with regards to the expansion of our consciousness. Jupiter is on Aquarian decan, which is all about going beyond. This eclipse is happening on Aquarian decan. 10 degrees, 2-3 minutes, doesn't matter which one it is, but 10 degrees is an Aquarian decan of Libra. So we're going beyond. This is all about expansion of our consciousness. This is post-Mercury Sun conjunction. So Mercury is in a new phase with this Sun and a Moon in the sign of Libra on Aquarian decan, going beyond, thinking beyond. Mercury is the ruler of Jupiter. Jupiter is an Aquarian decan, going beyond. Chiron, that Jupiter is sextiling, and this is the first sextile, which is the Taurian flavor, which is the building of this new foundation, building a new foundation based on facing our fears that are connected to the identities of the past, because this is not who we are anymore. We're going through the process of metamorphosis. Venus, as the ruler of the South Node, is on Pisces decan. Venus is in a new phase with this eclipse, not within a degree. We can see it's technically semi-sextile, but Venus is in the sign of Scorpio, ruled by Pluto, and Pluto is still making a trine to Uranus, which is ruled by Venus. So Venus is ruled by Pluto, and Uranus is ruled by Venus. So we can see how all this is connected. And we know that Uranus is currently retrograde, which is accelerating our path of evolution with regards to who we are, what we came here to do. Also, this is a Capricorn decan, which is all about self-mastery and redefining the reality we are experiencing, redefining what matters to us and what holds value to us, and how we might or might not be limiting ourselves because we buying into these outdated stories and these limited belief systems that being projected onto us, and believing something other would have in the past made us feel outcast, would made us feel like we were the aliens, the Aquarius, this being alienated from the tribe. But actually, because now the pattern is changing, the frequencies are changing, the times we live in are changing, this is exactly what we are invited to become unique, not like alienated, that's not what I mean, but to own our authenticity. And with regards to the Sun and Moon being in Libra, Sun, of course, is the ruler of Leo. There is currently nothing going on in Leo that I have here. I'm sure there is potentially some asteroids or something, but Sun being the ruler of Leo and Sun being an Aquarian decan of Libra, it's saying it's time to balance this crises and these extremes that came from the other, this disempowerment, the stories of the past, Pisces and decan. We have Saturn, Neptune still in Pisces. Actually, we have this grand water trine between Venus, Saturn, and Mars. And this is all about our intuition, Also, Saturn at this stage is, let me calculate, this is 14 degrees, this is Cancer decan. Interestingly enough, Mars is in Cancer, but it's in the Scorpio decan, and Venus is in Scorpio, but it's in the Pisces decan. I mean, come on, you know, so this is all about going to the next level. It's all about breaking free from the past. It's all about releasing that which no longer serves because it came from someone else. And with regards to this solar eclipse in Libra, it's building up a new relational paradigm, really like a new direction with regards to our relationships and way of relating, because this is in a new phase conjunction with the south node and opposition with the north node. But also we will not have a full moon lunar eclipse in Libra, because in fact the next moon that will be happening in Libra will be just a normal full moon. Where is it? Here, July, April, here, there we go. April 13th, 2025, that will be the full moon of Libra, like the opposition to the new moon. We are seeing at the moment, and it will be just a normal moon. It will no longer be an eclipse. And actually, the next eclipse in the sign of Libra will be experiencing, and this is the lunar eclipse, will be experiencing on April 14th, 2033. And this will be happening in conjunction with the North Node, because at that time, the North Node will be in the sign of Libra. This is the opposition from where we are at the moment. So we have 9 years, like 8.5 years to see what is getting seeded at this stage. And we will see the totality, you know, when we have this next full moon lunar eclipse in Libra on a south node, just like it's happening now. That will not take place until March 25th, 2024. Sorry, 2024. This is where we are at the moment. Where am I? Here. 33, 44. It was meant to be 44. Okay. Let me just correct this. So I don't know why. Let me just pause. Okay, guys, I corrected that. Let me just show you that information again. It's because I was going back and forth between the screen and it's just gone too far back. So yeah, so the totality of this we will be experiencing April 2042. So not 2442. So April 5th, 2042 is the next time we will have the full moon lunar eclipse in Libra on the south node, just as we are experiencing at the moment. So this cycle that we are seeing with this current new moon solar eclipse in Libra now on October 2nd will take 18 years. 18 years for us to understand. Like we will see the opposition of that in 2033, which is 9 years from now. But the full cycle of that will be in 18 years time in this April 2042, by which point Pluto will be almost done with the sign of Aquarius. So that's what I mean. So what we've got going on there, and it's technically very simple because you can see everything is here up in the Libra, you know, I mean, obviously depending where you are in the world, the ascendant will change, you know, so don't pay too much attention to the ascendant or the house, you know, which house it is in, but we just looking at the signs here and the planets. So with regards to the stellium in Libra, and we can see this is, as I mentioned, this is happening in a new phase conjunction with the south node, is actually happening wide the orb, but still in opposition with Chiron. But it is in new phase. Mercury is in a new phase, Venus is in a new phase, squared by Mars, and obviously Mars is the ruler of the North Node, and Mars is still technically squaring the North Node and squaring Chiron. And as I mentioned, this is happening while Chiron and Jupiter are having an exact sextile, and this is a creation of a new foundation, this expansion of consciousness, expansion of the story of the humanity, and Mercury being an new phase, but being on Aquarian decan of Libra, it's saying that this is what is going to change. It's going to, in a sense, fracture this pattern, like humans in themselves are fractured already because of the conditioning, because of the suppression of our true nature, and because of the sense of disempowerment and inability to stand in our authenticity, because in the past incarnations, this would mean death, right? Like in many times, that's why all of us, whether we experience it or not, we have the memory of being persecuted, being burned on a stake, being, like bad things happen to us, which is why we have a fear of the unknown, or fear to stand out or be different, because in the past there was a price to pay for that. But as I mentioned, now the energy has shifted, and this is what the source is desiring now. The humanity is ready for this change, and that's why with Mercury being in this new phase to the eclipse, and being in Libra on Aquarian Decan, and Jupiter being in Gemini on Aquarian Decan ruled by Mercury in Libra, it's saying that there is this new way, of connecting with the reality, connecting with one another, that goes beyond, but it's based on individuation and authenticity. It is not one size will fit all. It is no longer about cookie cut. And this is also why we have this grand water trine with all these, Pisces, Pisces, Cancer, Scorpio, and the decans are the other ones, like Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces, which is saying about this need for tapping into our intuition. It is the need, the need to trust yourself, to trust your inner guidance, which is why Mars is squaring the nodes and pointing to the Chiron, also squaring nodes, squaring Chiron, and, having the square with the Chiron. And this is the first quarter square, which is the crisis in action. And with regards to the nodes, pointing to the North Node in Aries, ruled by Mars in Cancer, it's saying that we need to break free from the attachment to these identities and labels and the stories and the parts that we played in the past, because this is not what's going to be supportive of us going forward. And this is also the Chiron Jupiter sextile, this making a new choice to create a new foundation for a different story. Jupiter, the storyteller, Sagittarius, right? And Chiron, as I mentioned, is in a Sagittarian decan. North Node is in Aries decan now, and North Node is coming closer and closer to conjunction with Neptune, which I believe is happening in February 2025. And also we can see this Saturn, Neptune, they are coming closer and closer together, even though now, because they retrograde, they are in a wide orb. But another thing that I wanted to mention, which I feel is quite important to know, is that we have already Jupiter is already squaring Saturn and Neptune. Like, I mean, I'm not quite sure why the software is not picking it up, but we can see 14 degrees, 28 degrees, and Jupiter is right in the middle. So we have the 14, 21, 28, which is interesting because these are all Saturnian, like not degrees, but Saturn has 28.5-year cycle. So we know that when you're 7, this is where you start social, like becoming part of the socialization, when kids go to school and, and stuff like that. 14 is, the Saturn opposition, the puberty, where we start like rebelling and we want to break free and stuff. 21, this is usually where, people go off to college, and college get their first job, get their first place to live and stuff like that. This desire, the desire to break free from, everything, just to become your own person. And 28 is the Saturn return, which is the, like when you need, like the life slap us in the face and go, okay, now you have to take responsibility, you cannot pretend you are a child anymore. So it's interesting that we have this 14, 21, and 28 degrees going on here. And Jupiter is squaring both Saturn and Neptune. This is a first quarter square between both Saturn and Jupiter, and Neptune and Jupiter. And again, Pisces to Gemini. So what are we releasing? And what do we need to choose? Something different to create more balance, to break free from the consensus way of thinking, one size fits all, because this is not what created a sense of balance, harmony, and belonging, even because it's all this division and separation we are experiencing, which is just feeling no longer aligned. It doesn't feel good for us anymore. So what I really wanted to say with this, pointing out this, Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune thing that's going on there. And, these are important factors because, of course, Jupiter is the ruler of Mercury over here. Mercury, it's connected to the eclipse, and Venus as the ruler of the eclipse is on Pisces decan, which is connected to Pisces, you know. So and also Venus is making an exact trine to Saturn, you know, not quite exact. I mean, the exact trine between Venus and Saturn is happening on the 4th, 2 days later. So again, going back to this Jupiter, Saturn, and Neptune, the conjunction, not conjunction, the exact, let me see. Yes, the exact square, because we have the square active at the moment, but Jupiter is preparing for his retrograde. Jupiter will be going retrograde 1 week later on October 9th. Jupiter will station retrograde. So for our full moon in Aries, which will be the next lunation after that on October 17th, Jupiter will already be retrograde. This is the last moon with Jupiter direct. So because of the retrograde, Jupiter will have its exact square with Saturn and Neptune next year. And the exact square between Jupiter and Saturn and Jupiter and Neptune will be happening when both Saturn and Neptune are already in the sign of Aries. So between Jupiter and Saturn, the exact square will take place on the it will take place on the 15th. I think I wrote it wrong. I believe the exact square between Jupiter and Saturn will be taking place on the 15th, and between Jupiter and Neptune will be on the 18th. And between Jupiter and Saturn, it will be on 1 degrees, 18 minutes, and between Jupiter and Neptune, it will be 2 degrees and 6 minutes. So either way, this will all be becoming exact in June. So June, of course, is a Gemini season, which is also about the choice. As I mentioned, this will be already in a new signs, because by then Jupiter will be actually in the sign of Cancer. So this will be expanding who will be becoming based on the choices we are making. So at the moment we are experiencing this pressure that, okay, we need to release something. We need to understand the meaning of what got us to this point. We potentially have to make a new choice, because the choices we have made in the past were strongly influenced by the external conditioning and not necessarily authentic to us, not necessarily in alignment with who we are here to become, but everything served its purpose. Everything taught us whatever we needed to learn in order to get to this point. But now with this square, which, as I mentioned, is going to become exact in June, during the Gemini season, when Jupiter is already in a sign of Cancer and both Saturn and Neptune are already in a sign of Aries. This is like, well, whatever we're choosing, whatever we make out of what we are experiencing at the moment, this is going to then create the next chapter of our life, a new sense of identity. So that's why this seeding of this solar eclipse in Libra, it's so important, because we are creating a new way of relating to ourselves and to one another and to reality around us, which we are co-creating together. So there is nothing this is a new moon and it's an eclipse. So it's a new moon, it's dark. There is no like illumination, there is no light. This is a I believe it is the, let me double check. So, I know what I'm talking about here, but I believe, is it the full annual solar eclipse? Okay, annual solar eclipse. So it's not the total solar eclipse. Annual solar eclipse, either way, it is a new moon. So new moon is always dark. It is a seeding of energy, which we will see illuminated with the full moon. But in this case, like I mentioned, the full moon in Libra in April 2025 will not be an eclipse. By that point, the nodes will be in Virgo, Pisces, and the next eclipse in Libra won't be until 2033, which will be on the North Node. So this will take time. So we don't really know where we're going and what will all of this means, because it will mean different things to different people based on the foundation and the self-trust and the resourcefulness, and how much do we feel that we deserve and we are open to receiving. So there are multitudes of factors that will influence how this will show up in the next 9 to 18 years, because as I mentioned, the next lunar eclipse in Libra on the south node will be not until 2042, which is Pluto's end of transit through the sign of Aquarius, because Pluto will ingress into the sign of Pisces for the first time in 2043, which will be the following year. So all that said, at the same time, we are experiencing these squares from Mars, which is in Cancer, which is all about the identity and the sense of who we were, because Cancer holds memories, is the ancestor line, is the history and all the rest of it. But also Jupiter as the storyteller in Gemini, it's making a square to Saturn and Neptune. And as I just mentioned multiple times, the exact square will not actually take place until Jupiter is in Cancer, which is where Mars is at the moment, and both Saturn and Neptune are in the sign of Aries. And this will be all early degrees, 1 degree, 2 degrees, as I mentioned. So it will be the concentrated flavor of the sign, Cancer and Aries. And Cancer and Aries trying each other because Cancer wants the safety and security, the familiarity, whereas Aries doesn't. Aries wants to go in a new direction. It wants this to create new things, wants to experience new things. At the end of the day, we know that Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius have the grand fire trine, which is all about I am, and I want to actualize, and I want to create this new story, this new direction, this new experience, this new exploration, which is what we all came here to do. We are all explorers. We are all the fools on our fool's journey. And this is all supported by also this Pluto making a trine to Uranus, and all of these planets are still retrograde. Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, they are still retrograde, and Chiron also. And as I mentioned, Jupiter is preparing for his retrograde, and Mars is preparing to step into his shadow, because Mars is going to retrograde from December onwards for until February, 3 months. And then we're going to have Mars in Cancer again from January 2025. So there will be a lot of changes that will be taking place, especially on the internal level, because of all this water. And Venus, both Venus as the ruler of the south node and Mars as the ruler of the north node are in water signs. And Saturn is the structure of the reality, ruled by Neptune, are in the water signs. So, and also Pluto currently being in a sign of Capricorn is once again ruled by Saturn, and Pluto is in Capricorn, which is the earth signs. So this is all about reconnecting with our emotion, downloading the information that we need to help us understand who we really are, minus the influence from the external environment that's been telling you who you were your entire life. And for most of the people, it didn't work out very well because they are not enjoying their current experience. And with the Pluto being on 29 degrees Capricorn retrograde, and Saturn being on this Cancer decan of Pisces, and Neptune being on the Scorpio decan of the Pisces, this is all about facing our fear and going through the process of collective metamorphosis. And this, once again, is looking different for different people, because that's the point. Because Mars being in the sign of Cancer, squaring the North Node in Aries on Aries decan, and Chiron on Sagittarius decan, this means that we are all going to be going in the new directions that is unique to you. It doesn't mean you're going to be there alone, but it just means that the people you're going to be connecting with, you will be more in resonance and alignment with, because these people have to reach the same frequency in order to connect with you. So it's not going to be like this reality where everybody is experiencing the same thing in the same way, because this is what we were conditioned to believe, that this is how it's supposed to be. But this is changing, because this 29 degrees Capricorn, it's all about totality. And we already know that that's what kind of was the full message of this full moon lunar eclipse in Pisces, which happened in conjunction with Neptune. Moon was in a closing phase to Neptune. It is the totality. Cancer, ruled by Moon. Moon was in a closing phase to Neptune. Now Moon is in a sign of Libra. Mars is squaring it from the sign of Cancer, ruled by Moon. So this is all about breaking free. Moon now, with regards to square to Mars, it's a crisis in action. The eclipse itself, Sun and the Moon together, as a one unit, Mars is in a closing phase. So with regards to Moon, it's saying we need to take an action with what is this reality that we created, that came from other people, that came from the mirror, not from the inner source. And with regards to Mars, to this eclipse energy, closing phase to the eclipse, it's saying that we need to release these identities, because they're no longer making us feel empowered. They now got us to the stage where actually we feel disempowered and suppressed and limited. And the way to break free from that is the trine, which is this intuition and facing our fears, connecting with our emotions, and releasing that which is part of the past karma and past conditioning and suppression. Because this is really the time in human history where we have the opportunity to just release it. Because you see these energies, all of these energies that we are playing with at the moment, most of them were not created in this lifetime. They were just being passed on from generation to generation, because as I previously spoken about, this energy cannot be destroyed. It has to change form in order to be express itself differently. It has to change the form. So all these energies we are experiencing at the moment, which is repetition of the same pattern, is the energy that's stuck in time that needs to be transformed. It needs to be transformed, transmuted, transcended, if needed, released back to the source. So this is why these things are coming around over and over again, because they are connected to all this past incarnation, past human interaction, everything that already happened. And this is also like with regards to like what I was being told during my channeling, like when I was interacting with the spirit, and they said that like all these people, like with regards to, in this example, my ancestors, like, which, is irrelevant, because all our ancestors are all our ancestors, we are all connected. But if you just want to look at it linearly, okay, my bloodline ancestors, the family I came from, and I was being told that, well, there is all this sorrow, there is all this keening, there is all this crying, there is all this, all this pain that these people had to go through, and it's stuck in time. So I need to transform this energy, because otherwise this pain, sorrow, keening, this suppression, this all this stuff, it just gets passed on, because somebody has to change this energy. Like, imagine there is a channel on your television, and if nobody changes the channel, the program will just keep going, right? Like, yeah, it will look something different, but it will be still the same station. So I mean, like, somebody has to go and like switch the, tune into different frequency, like just change the, tune into different channel. So I don't know if that's a good example, but either way, I think I know, I hope people know what I mean. But that's technically what it is. Everything that's unresolved, anything that's stuck in the past, and especially these dense energies, they are just stuck. They are stuck, and they need to be released. And the way we're going to release it is we allow, through the emotion, these messages to wash over us and watch through us, because it's all this energy, it's all this emotion is the energy in motion, and we are 70% water. The planet is 70% water. Like, we are mostly water. Is all this, like, water has to move. Water has to move. There has to be that fluidity, the continuous motion, but it's stuck. Like when we see the still waters, the water that is stuck, and then stuff starts rotting in there. There has to be that fluidity. Also the same with blood. Imagine blood clots, or this heart diseases, like when the blood gets stuck, it needs to flow, it needs to move. So all this energy is stuck. It's stuck, and that's why it keeps coming around, and we feel it. We feel it over and over and over again. Because also when we are experiencing this in our life, like these things that we are afraid of, what we really processing is the emotion. Like, yeah, brain say like, oh yeah, there's been this that happened, there was that happened, but that is just an information. What is really makes the information real is the feeling, is the emotion that's attached to it, and then we feel it in our body, and we go through that, and then it's like, oh, we either can find a way to distract ourselves so we don't have to deal with it, like, oh, okay, let me go and do something because this is too much, or we can just allow the emotion to be felt and wash over us, because eventually it will. So yeah, so I feel that with this full new moon solar eclipse in Libra, we are seeding this new way of relating, to the life around us, which is based on this neutralization of the past energies that have the potential to make us feel empowered or disempowered, but we need to release that which no longer is going to be supportive with regards to where we're going and the reality that we are creating. And the way we're going to do it is that we need to feel the feels and allow these energies to wash through us. They have to be re-experienced so they can be released. So that's why we keep recreating the same patterns with different people and feel the same sorrow, because the energy needs to be transmuted. And this is what humanity is going through. And through the transmutation of the energy, we are also transmuting the identity that we connected to. Because if we face our fears, and allow this emotion, like imagine you are, or I am, anyone, we are afraid of something, but we don't run away from it and we face it. And before that, we felt victimized by that person, situation, whatever, because we were afraid, like, I don't know, like imagine public speaking, or or setting up boundaries, or saying no to people, if you don't want to do something, people pleasing, right? And we are afraid because, like, oh my god, what would that person say, especially Libra, right? People pleasing, and all this kind of thing. There is always this imbalance, like somebody is gaining and somebody is losing, right? But it doesn't have to be like that. It can be this equal giving and receiving, right? So how is that going to take place? Well, we'll have to start saying no. We'll have to start, like, bringing it back to the balance point, not just say no all the time now, but like trying to calibrate, trying to find the balance. And that's usually what happens. People just go to the opposite extreme, but eventually we try to strike for the balance. So that's literally what it is. This is literally what we're trying, like we're trying to face the things that make us feel uncomfortable, we didn't want to deal with in the past because it's just too much. And we're trying to transmute that energy so we don't no longer feel victimized or terrorized by it. We no longer feel stuck, like, oh, I can't do nothing because there's just this energy that keeps me trapped, like the devil energy, right? And then once that's done, then we release that energy, but not just that, that takes time, obviously. Like, it usually is not the success the very first time, but it becomes easier. But then once that energy is changed, is transmuted, we allow that energy to make us feel empowered. Also, our sense of who we are changes. We no longer feel afraid. We no longer identify ourselves as, oh yeah, I'm the people pleaser, afraid to say no. Like, that has changed. That is no longer my identity. I would say, like, no, I am not that. I'm recovering people pleaser or whatever. I'm not that person anymore, and I'm not afraid anymore. I'm not afraid to put boundaries or something. So you know what I mean. So when we face these things that are making us feel disempowered, stuck, and afraid, and we allow that energy to metamorphose, like to support us in our process of metamorphosis, our process of evolution, transmutation, and transform into something different. So that's our sense of who we are, our identity. So this is what this Mars is doing. It's squaring the nodes, it's squaring Chiron. Things of the past are coming around. This eclipse is technically opposing Chiron, even though it is more than 10 degrees. The exact opposition between Sun and Chiron, let me see, do I even have it written down? Doesn't matter. It's going to happen 11 days after this, so it's like what, October 13th, I believe. Yeah, I didn't write it down. I have Venus making an opposition to Uranus, which is on the 14th. But yeah, there will be also, oh yeah, I do have it. Yeah, 14th. So there will be very busy day on October 14th. We'll have the Sun in opposition to Chiron, also Sun trining Jupiter, which, yeah, it's the 21 degrees. So yeah, it's going to be happening on the same day. And also the exact square between Sun and Mars will be happening on the 14th. Yeah, on the 14th. So we'll have that taking place for us before the full moon in Aries, which will not be an eclipse. But all that said, even though it is not an exact opposition, it's close enough, because, technically we can say, okay, but Chiron is opposing Mercury, and Mercury is opposing conjuncting all of these, all of these things that are happening in Libra over there. So this is the thing, this is what is supporting us in balancing this energy, that the wounds, the unhealed things from the past, the things that are now outdated and created this sense of injustice, created this division, separation, and this sense of suffering, suffering, right? The Venus in Scorpio and the Pisces decan, you know, the victimhood mentality, all the rest of it. These things are coming around. They're coming around over and over and over and over again until we change that energy and transmute it into something different, through which, as I mentioned, our identity and sense of who we are changes. And this is what this Mars is supporting. You know, this square to the North Node, resolution North Node, ruled by Mars in Cancer. Release ourselves from the attachment to the past, because the past is not going to be coming with us into the future. The past is changing. It's going through the process of transmutation. This is already a new phase between the South Node and the Moon. So over the next 9 to 18 years, we will see massive changes with regards to human race, like our interactions with one another, reality, the way we act as humans, as a collective. Everything will change. Everything will change. And through that, we will learn to think outside of the box and interact with one another differently and identify one another differently, which will be more neutralized approach, not so polarized, not so extreme, not so extreme, because that is the opposition to the North Node, you know, the Sun in opposition with the North Node. And the exact conjunction between Sun and North Node, as I keep mentioning, happened on the 4-4 portal right before the solar eclipse in Aries, which was on April 8th. So yeah, you know, like there is obviously a lot happening, and there will be more happening, you know, as we keep going. You know, also there is Mercury trine to Jupiter that's coming up. Mercury trine to Jupiter is happening on the 8th. Here we go. Mercury trine to Jupiter. It's already within the 10 degrees, happening exactly on the 8th. And Mercury square to Mars. And that is happening exactly on the 6th. So a few days after this. So Mercury, with regards to Mercury and Mars, this is again about crisis in action. It's all saying the same thing, seriously, guys. Like, you know, it's just like no matter how many times we go around and look at all these planets and try to, you know, go with microscope and into the miniature patterns of all of this that's going on over there, but the bottom line is the same. You know, that's what I mean. Like the bottom line of both eclipses is very simple. It's saying that the way we were and the way that life existed on this planet is ending. We have technically 2 years, right? Because until the nodes move into Aquarius and Leo, because we'll have this back and forth, you know, especially for the next year and a half with this Saturn, Neptune, you know, and then Uranus, you know, they're all going to be going into new signs and then go back into the old signs. And also the eclipses between Virgo, Pisces, which is all about adjustments, releasing, you know, like continuation of the human journey on this planet. But in the essence, 2026, you know, with all the big planets in a masculine signs, that's it. You know, that's it. Jupiter will be in Leo, you know, and yeah, Pluto in Aquarius, Uranus in Gemini, Saturn, Neptune in Aries. The nodes will ingress into Leo and Aquarius summer 2026. That's it. You know, we're going ahead, ready or not, you know. So this time in a history that we are experiencing at the moment, it's very indicative, you know, because it literally is a opportunity for people to make their choice. And this is what I've been talking about literally this entire year. And I know other people, other channelers confirm that this is a year of the choice, where people need to decide, what do I want to do with the rest of my, you know, incarnation on this planet? Because we live in times that are very, like they're changing, and they're changing at a very rapid speed. And we all have the opportunity to deal with our emotions that are connected to these happenings and experiences we are having and interacting with in an old or a new way. We can either, you know, do what we've always done, which is just like sweep it under the carpet and you know, distract ourselves or comfort eat or whatever, you know, addictions, escapism, right? Neptune, we can do that. Or we can just get to the bottom of it and say no more, no more, whatever it takes. I'm breaking free from this, you know. But it's a choice, it's a choice. And that's why, as I started saying, or did I say it in this one, or did I say it in my practical application? I'm like losing it because this is a second video I'm recording today. Either way, what I did say, but in this video, I think it was in my practical application, that the more we go into the future, the less predictive any of these tools will be, whether it's astrology, tarot, whatever, it's going to be less and less predictive, because the more people change, the more people grow and evolve and change the pattern that we are trapped with in at the moment due to the past conditioning and unhealed wounding and trauma. But the more people make the conscious decision of break free out of this and do the work, do the healing work, the shadow work and stuff like that, the less predictable humanity will become, because the more we step into our authenticity and individuate, there is no one like you. There is no one like me. We are all unique. We all came here to play a unique role, on the big tapestry of, life on planet Earth. So that's what I mean. So this is where, this grand water trine comes into place and say, yes, we have to learn. We have to learn to connect to this something which is intangible, something that is deep within us, this water that's flowing, and learn to orient ourselves in this world that is becoming more and more unpredictable and changeable and unstable. We need to orient through this, orient ourselves and guide ourselves through this experience here on planet Earth in this different way, which comes from inside, not outside. So that's why we have all this stuff, this Mars challenging this eclipse, and North Node and Chiron. Mars is the rule of the North Node in Cancer on Scorpio Decan, but at the same time being in this grand water trine, because when everything else failed, when everything outside of us failed and none of it is supportive or guiding us, the only way is in. So in a sense, whatever that takes, we either make the choice consciously and decide for ourselves that this is the way it needs to happen, that we need to change our inner landscape in order to see the change in the outer, outer reality, outer landscape, or we'll be pushed into it. So there is not really any other way. And as I keep saying, at the moment, all these big planets are in a feminine signs, but they are not personal planets. These big planets, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, they are not a personal planets. So whatever needs to happen, whatever needs to take place in order for the evolution to go into the direction that we all agreed to, based on our soul contracts prior to incarnation, that's exactly what will take place. And it's going to look different for different people. And experience of that is going to look different for different people, because it's based on the choice we make in consciously or subconsciously. And what is being seeded is this new way of interacting with life, which we will see manifested over the next 9 to 18 years. So as I said, there is potentially much more to talk about, but I will be recording my collaborations. So there will be other people's perspective to mix into this, so we can dive deeper. But this is my take on things. I am going to pull some cards. Unfortunately, the light is not great today because it's been raining. So I do my best, just tune into the messages if the picture is not very visible. But yeah, I hope that this resonated. And now I'm going to switch the screen and I'm going to pull some cards. Okay, let's see what the cards want to say. So we're going to start with the Stacey DeMarco, the Queen of the Moon, and see what is the energy of this lunation. New moon solar eclipse in Libra. What is the message, please, Spirit? Okay, what is the overarching energy of this new moon solar eclipse in Libra, please? Abundance. We had that last time. That was one of the cards. The lady with the fox. Abundance with the full moon. Sorry, it's my ring light. I don't want to turn it off because then it will be even darker in here. But it's this lady under the full moon. This is the hunter moon, which is usually the first full moon around the equinox, which I believe, well, we can say it was the eclipse, but it was, it's also building up towards the solar not solar, is building up towards the full moon in Aries, which is not an eclipse. So yeah, abundance. We are seeding a future of abundance. What's at the bottom? Yeah, through facing our darkness and being in the unknown. So this is the long night moon, number 40. This looks kind of like an eclipse, you know, the new moon. I'm going to read about this one, long night moon. But yeah, this is what's awaiting us. But also, I remember this card came out in one of the readings with me and my solstice. It's a 38, which is number 11, master number frequency. We reap what we sow. We reap what we sow. So, you know, I feel that this is very connected to the Pisces full moon lunar eclipse because we are reaping what we sow, you know, until this point. And this is not a judgment and this is not good or bad. It's just like cause and effect, you know, the cause and effect, law of karma, cause and effect. We reap in what we sow, but through facing that, as I mentioned, you know, with this Chiron supporting Jupiter, you know, the sextile, we're creating a foundation for something different, which we will then reap as the time goes on. But at the moment, we are here, we are in a dark. We had this card before, you know, with the bunny at the beginning of the journey, you know, this long night moon, number 40, number 4, Saturn, creating a new foundation. So we are reaping what we sow. Good or bad doesn't matter, you know, like the universe is not polarized to create a new foundation for the future. And again, what that's going to look like is different for different people. It's a, you know, it's a path ahead. It's a dark night. And this, I think, is the longest. I believe this might be the winter solstice, the long night, the longest night of the year. Okay, long night moon. You are entering a time of introversion, a leaner time, or a time to turn inwards to plan and strategize. It is time to do shadow work, which will bring big dividends. Yeah, dividends. It will bring big dividends later on. Release what no longer works for you. And the affirmation is the darkness needs to be there as much as the light does. And it doesn't say which lunation it is, but the companion stone and metal is onyx. So this makes perfect sense to me, these cards. We are reaping what we sown until this time, but we have the opportunity, you know, through the shadow work to release it. Just like I said, you know, like all that's going to be happening depends on how people respond to the energies that are stuck in time, unhealed and unresolved. Like whether they will continue the victimhood mentality and try to pass on the responsibility to someone else to resolve and heal it for them, which is not possible, or, you know, or we do the work that needs to be done and just free ourselves. And it's also like presented to us through these other people, you know, to which extent people trigger us or we allow other people, you know, to trigger us. And there was a card at the top that was poking at me, which is this masculine, you know, and this is the lunar god, you know, step into our masculine, step into our, it's the balancing of the divine feminine and masculine, but step into I would say our strength is like I'm tapping like emperor card, you know, be your leader, you know, like create your own foundation, you know, create your own strategy for what you want to create, what you want to experience. But yeah, with this darkness, it's all unknown. You know, this is a dark moon. It's a solar eclipse. It is a new moon, so it's all about unknown. So whatever we are, and this is what came through with my practical application of astrology, which you know was about the present moment, but also the present moment is the effect of the past and cause of the future, right? Like whatever is seeded, it's, you know, this is what's going to create the effect of the future, you know, this will be the effect of, but at the moment, the present moment, in present moment, we're creating the cause of the future, but it's the effect of the past, you know, the cause and effect, whatever got seeded. So that's what I mean. Like universe is not polarized. Universe doesn't come, the karma doesn't come out there to punish us. The karma represents energy that is in balance and needs to be balanced. And this is what been coming up for months now. So yeah, so with this abundance and the void, depending like what we sow, that's what we harvesting, and what are we sowing now, that's what's going to be harvested later on. So it's this continuous process. Anyway, without going into circles for 10 minutes, let me just pull Queen of the Sun. This is the counterpart, because this is the solar energies, and it is the eclipse. So for these two lunations, I'm using both decks, but this is usually the deck I use for your solar return. So here we go. Let's see what the Queen of the Sun wants to say. So it was the Queen of the Moon, now Queen of the Sun. What is the guidance for this eclipse, solar eclipse in Libra? Okay, gratitude. Yeah, let's be grateful for everything. Gratitude. You see, there is a flower in the bubble. Gratitude, grateful for everything that brought us to this point. Yeah, because this is again the cause and effect. Because whatever is the frequency of the present is going to create the next moment. So yeah, and it's a 32, which is number 5, the card of change, number 5. And at the bottom is inside 26, number 8, inside this person in an archway with the light behind him. And it's Apollo, which is the god of sun, Apollo. So, okay, let's see what these two have to say. But they're 32. I'm just going to read the short interpretation, which is Lammas. Gratitude. Focus on gratitude and not on what isn't going right for you. Celebrate all that we are grateful for. Accept change. Don't sweat the small stuff. Your hard work pays off. And it says affirmation. I am grateful for ... Fill the space. So yeah, because what we sown in the past, we are reaping now, and what we are sowing now, we're gonna reap into the future. And 26, the insight, having a higher insight, Apollo, the god of the sun. 26. All right. Look at the rational truth of a situation. Seek the facts. Know thyself. Pay attention to your health. Ask questions. Do not guess. Inquire. You might get what you are looking for. Use divination more regularly. And it says, I heal and I can heal. I seek the truth. Companion stone is clear quartz. So I'm not going to go into mythology because that would take too long, and I want to pull a few more cards. But yeah, inside, the light is behind him, like trust. There we go, in the archway, entering, going through the portal, entering the gate. And this also, like, as I said, there was this card poking out, which is the masculine. Look at this, very similar. The divine masculine, taking a charge, be your own leader, have the insight, understanding the higher meaning, but also be able to ground that energy. 26, number 8, associated with Saturn and Jupiter, and also this year. And isn't that interesting that we'll have the squares between Saturn, Jupiter, and Jupiter and Neptune, and the exact square is taking place in Aries, and Jupiter will be in Cancer. So, okay, we are going to pull a portal card. The time is running out, so let's just see what the portals, the gateway of light activation from Kyle Gray, my favorite for the lunations. Let's see what portal is opening up for us for during this new moon solar eclipse in Libra, please, Spirit. Thank you. Portal, what portal is supporting us at this time? Okay. Order of Melchizedek. We already had this one before. Another portal, you see, with the stars around, and you can't see, unfortunately, because of my camera, but there is a circle with the Nautilus, the spiral of the Nautilus shell is right there in the middle. I can turn the light, but I don't think it's gonna be seen any better. Yeah, not really. So here it is, but yeah, my camera doesn't pick it up, so unfortunately. Okay, so here we see like a mountains around, and there is this portal opening up to the sky, and there in the middle of that portal is the circle with this spiral, that is just we just going in spirals of evolution. And it says, Order of Melchizedek, embraced by light, mission uncovered, don't give up. And we did have this card before. I can't tell you when it was, but I saw it before. And also underneath at the bottom of the deck, we have a sacred inner space, sacral chakra, tenderness, and sensuality. And again, light with lotus flower in between. In the middle is a lot of and all gold and pink, pink, higher heart, and the gold as the golden age of humanity. Okay, let's just remind ourselves about the order of Melchizedek. Order of Melchizedek. Melchizedek, whose name means king of righteousness, is the first high priest mentioned in the Bible, the one who initiated all the great teachers that followed him. He is mentioned in several Abrahamic texts, including the Dead Sea Scrolls and also the Kabbalistic Zohar. He is the ancient gatekeeper walking the spiritual path to take the initiatory steps to align with the light. The best way to describe this great being is as a visit. When you invoke him, you will feel the presence of a loving and angelic grandfather who wants to guide you to your greatness. The order of Melchizedek, which was mentioned by Jesus in the New Testament, is a divine order of very high frequency light beings, angels, and masters who are working together as an energetic force dedicated to lightening up and outshining all darkness and bringing a greater balance of masculine and feminine energies to earth. Its members include Jesus, Archangel Michael, Archeia Faith, and Mother Mary. By connecting with these cosmic beings, you give permission for our energy to be upgraded by light and to light so that we can become an even greater vessel of purpose for the world. Connect. When you're feeling challenged by something that feels like a big life lesson, call in the order or the order of Melchizedek, light bearers, angelic beings, and cosmic guides. Thank you for enveloping me in your brilliant crystal clear light. And we had the card of gratitude, right? The card of gratitude. Yeah, enveloping in a light. That's the inside card. Okay, your message. You have learned so much and are now recognizing all the great lessons your experiences and challenges have brought you. The order of Melchizedek is coming to you today to encourage you to continue on this pathway and not to give up. Even in moments of darkness and fear, there is the opportunity for you to share your light. If you're feeling overwhelmed, it's imperative for you to know you're not alone. Light is with you and within you, and by invoking spiritual support, you will be able to master up the strength, courage, and focus you need to surmount whatever challenges you face. So yeah, this to me is indicating that, you know, these next 8 to 20 years, 8 to 18, 9 to 18 years will not necessarily be easy because we are creating a completely different history, you know, and it's happening from the ashes of the past, this phoenix rising. So it is not going to be easy, but we were all born for these times. So we all know what we came here to do, even if it's just on a soul level. And that's why there is that grand water trine. That's the opportunity to connect with also ascended masters and everything we were before and all our ancestors to support us in releasing the past karma and overcoming this stuckness, you know, this repetition of copy paste, you know, and go forward, go beyond to create this new story, different story. This Jupiter on Aquarian Decan still direct before it goes retrograde, because the story that we are experiencing at the moment will change. It will change. Okay, and now sacred inner space. Let's see what this one wants to say. I haven't seen that one before. This is with the lotus flower, which, yeah, nobody can see. You know, there is an archway of light with lotus flower in the middle, all pink and gold. So there's a sacral chakra, tenderness, sensuality. The sacral chakra is found below the belly button, and it is the energetic space that governs our reproductive systems and all forms of expansions connected to it. Everything from our sexuality to our capacity to express the tender, more sacred parts of ourselves is connected to this chakra. It is governed by water, right? And it is and so it helps us move with the flow of life in order to express our most authentic self. This card transports us to this sacred inner space. It shows an inner temple with flowing water and lots of soft colors coming from a blooming lotus. This encourages us to see that our sacred path are beautiful energetic gateways through which we can express and manifest pure life force. Connect, visualize a drop of divine light from the heart of the universe washing over and through your genitals. Reconnect with this energetic space and recognize that this is a space of divine power. Your message: you are being guided to the gateway of your sacred self. This is an opportunity to recognize that the more tender and vulnerable aspects of your being holds key to greater power. Honor the sacred within. Reclaim any parts of yourself that you have disconnected from or abandoned. If you want to experience more love and belonging, look within. There is a huge lesson in finding love within yourself. Realize that false narratives have been floating around your energetic field, stories that have discouraged you from expressing yourself. You may even have been lied to and told you aren't beautiful. This card is here to remind you that you are beautiful, and more importantly, you can create beauty in the world. Recognize that you hold the power of the universe within, and then you'll find your flow. Yeah, it's like with the abundance, the potential to create beauty, the potential to create, well, I don't want to say new order, but to create a different way of being. And this is what this solar eclipse really feels to me, is the new everything, the new, because you see, like, everything in this life is relational, and that's the main thing we came here to experience, the relationships. Because would there be no other people around you, there would be no mirror. How would we know anything, right? We wouldn't know we even exist. There would be like no point to create anything, no art or anything. If there's no one to appreciate it, it would be no point. But yeah, like I don't want to keep going in circles, but this level of disconnection and division, all this competitiveness and these narcissistic tendencies that humanity is um, manifesting, it comes from deep wounding, from this disconnection that at some point we were being told we weren't enough, we weren't beautiful, that our creativity had to be suppressed, and it created distortion in the world. And that's why with this Libra, it's all about balancing, neutralizing that energy, and focusing on that beauty within that we want to see manifesting without. So we are going to close with the major arcana message for, okay, we have a death here. Literally jumped. Okay, we have the death, the complete metamorphosis, Scorpio, and at the bottom we have the Emperor. But isn't that interesting? Because I did mention the Emperor. So yeah, the old is dying. We're going through the process of death and rebirth. Only child is standing, only child, the innocence, the pure innocence, and the creating of the new, the white flower, the new is being created, the flower that is also on the full, the full. Oh, and underneath was the Wheel of Fortune, and underneath that was the world. Yeah, this is why, we're going through this death, the process of death and rebirth. And it's on a white horse, and actually death and emperor are connected, right? It's 13 and 4. Yes, these two are connected because this emperor is dressed in the same thing. This is this is how we start. There is a structure, number 4, structure of the reality, the Saturn in Pisces, right? And what did I say? It was on a Scorpio Deacon, I believe. So Pisces, no, Cancer Deacon, and Mars was on Scorpio Deacon, and Venus was on. And I keep saying, to me, this represents Mars in Capricorn. Either way, number 4, the structure of reality at the moment is built on the structure of reality we are experiencing is built on old identities or on who we were. It's not who we are anymore. So the death comes, this emperor, but now as a death, which is saying that, okay, the structure of reality needs to change because it's no longer supporting us. We need to start new, from this authentic expression, because that got lost somewhere in the melee, of conditioning. Why? Because the Wheel of Fortune, because the winds are turning, because the planet, this is Jupiter. This represents the planet Jupiter, expansion. And we know that Jupiter is squaring Saturn and Neptune, right? So this is the expansion of human consciousness. The Mercury is the ruler being in a new phase with this eclipse, so it's the opportunity for expansion of the consciousness, turning the wheel, going somewhere different, and this is all, orange. This is actually orange, even though my camera is not picking it up. It's orange, which is the sacral chakra, creating a new direction. And yeah, because the old is ending, this is the graduation, because us as a humanity, we graduated from this Pisces age, it's finished, and now we're creating something different. But we need to be grateful for the lessons, because if we not, then we're going to reap the same things, and then we're going to sow the same things. So we are here at the beginning of the journey, and it's up to every single one of us what we're going to choose. So this is where I'm going to leave it. I hope that these messages were helpful to someone, that perhaps offered deeper understanding of these energies. And yeah, if you feel lost and confused and like your world is falling apart, you are not alone, because the old world has to fall apart. So I feel that many of us are experiencing this at the moment, where things just don't make sense anymore. But that's not a bad place to start with, because we know that the ego mind, our logical brain, is the archive of the past. So with that, I would like to close this space. I would like to thank you all watching, if you're still watching. And also, because I forgot last time, I would like to thank my higher self, my spirit guides, ancestors, ascended masters who were present for this reading, and all the beings of light for being present. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you everyone for watching. And once again, I hope that this offered some value. I wish you all a wonderful solar eclipse in Libra, and setting off. I mean, I know that they say from traditional perspective that eclipses are not good places to, not good moons to set intentions or seed, because they are unpredictable. But the story of the past is changing, so it's up to you whether you want to believe that or you want to create your own story. So treat this moon in whichever way speaks to you, because there is the groundwater trine. So trust your intuition. Whatever you feel is the right approach, or the right way to interact with this lunation for you, that's the right way for you. Okay, guys, with that, I'm gonna love you and leave you. Thank you again for watching. If anybody would like to connect with me, you can find my details in the description. And yeah, and I'll look forward to speaking to you again. Okay, much love, everyone. Have a great weekend, and I'll speak to you again next time. Bye for now.